We'll give it a couple of minutes for everyone to join. The people who have joined already, if you wouldn't mind putting something in the chat just to double check you can hear and see us okay, would be fantastic. If anyone is about.
We can hear and see you. Perfect. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Matt.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
Great. Good stuff.
Cool. We'll kick off in about
1 minute.
So.
1 minute. We'll get started.
See everyone come in. If anyone's got any questions before we start, then just please do put them in the chat and we'll come to them as soon as we can throughout the webinar. But yeah, just checking on people coming in. If you can hear and see us, please put it in the chat. Make sure if you've got any issues, please let us know and we can try and help you sort them.
Perfect. All is good.
Cool. 20 seconds and we will get into it. I think I should share the screen now.
Yeah, I'll share my screen.
Slides. Perfect.
I think we're
wonderful. Yeah,
ready to rumble.
Let's go for it. So thank you very much for joining, everyone. Really appreciate it. My name's Joe. This is Harry. We are owners of The Degree Gap. And today, thank you very much for joining us to say for this 45-minute free masterclass, every parent we feel should watch before mock exams. We speak to parents day in, day out, and these are all the things that we notice, and we wanted to share you some advice and knowledge that we come across all the time that should support you to help support your child through this difficult time and then their journey going onwards through to the exam times next year. So yeah, let's go into it.
So perfect. We're going to start from how we got here. Both Joe and I went to the same secondary and primary school. So we've known each other for a very long time, and we'd probably be classed as not academic naturals, but we both had tutoring in maths, English. I also had it in economics, and with steady discipline, we raised our performance in every subject, and I achieved 18 grades above my target. So what that will translate to in A star to C terms is I was predicted probably a C or a B, but got an A star or A in every subject. So then we progressed to our A levels. So we did 4 A levels and went on to study at leading UK universities. So I studied at London School of Economics. So for my A levels, I picked 4 subjects. And that basically meant that I didn't really have any free time throughout the school period. So I had to leave it to the after school period. So yeah, and then we both come back together after working in finance and recruitment, and then come back to education, supporting students through the G5 applications and tutoring full time. And we set up the Degree Gap 2 years ago, and that has now grown into a team of 75 tutors. And we're recognised for strong academic outcomes, but also a very tailored support.
Sorry, just to stop there. Some people in chat saying it's black at the moment.
Oh, okay.
If you want to stop.
That's them.
Hopefully. Sorry about this, guys. It should now load in the slides. Sorry, guys. We're just going to sort this out and then we'll get back to it. I don't know why the slides are not showing.
Can you try to share again? It's all okay.
Yeah, please do update us if this.
Oh, it did work then. Working now, apparently.
It's an issue with YouTube and is not does not seem to want to unload it. Yeah, it did work for a second. I'm not too sure why it didn't come back. That's so strange.
Just going to check the screen.
It's so strange. Sorry guys, we're just having a few tech issues. The screen isn't seeming to share, but we will hopefully get this working in a second.
Yeah, I think Matt's probably right. It just probably takes a minute to update.
So we're now sharing the screens. Hopefully it'll update. Is it the fact that you're sharing in Chrome? Maybe if you try sharing.
It can't even join on Safari, I don't think. I've tried.
I think it's taken it. So strange.
I don't know.
Yeah, this could work if we share our entire screen. Then hopefully. Here we go.
Something's happening.
It should present now. Hopefully.
Just takes 2 minutes, I can imagine.
Oh, I think. Here we go. Should take a second and we will be in. Okay, perfect. We're back. Okay. Apologies for that. Yeah, we were behind a little bit, but yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. Sorry about that. So it is behind, but we're definitely rolling here. So the slides will update as we're talking. So as Harry mentioned a minute ago, if I go back a slide for everyone who's newly joined, Harry, go for it. And then
as I mentioned, both went to the same secondary school and primary school, and we both got tutoring in maths and English throughout the whole period, but also economics. We mentioned a lot of our revision techniques coming up very soon, and a lot of them are stuff that we started putting in place in year 11, year 12. And when we went on to do our A-levels and picked 4 A-levels, it meant that we didn't really have much time throughout the school period because we had no free periods. So it really meant that we had to hone in on them effective revision methods, which we're going to mention in a minute. But yeah, and then we both went into, so I went into finance, Joe went into recruitment, but we both come back together to set up the degree gap. And we've won GCSE Specialist of the Year for this year. And we hold a very high standard for the tutoring that we do provide.
Exactly that. So Harry's already delved into it, but a little bit about what we do now and why. So our mission is essentially to maximise educational potential by providing students with the clear and structured support they deserve. So we actually start every student journey by beginning with a free parent consultation. This allows us to understand the students' needs and goals, and obviously match them with an ideal tutor. We've both had tutors in the past, and being tutors and getting the right match is so important. And then it comes on to the fact that we go beyond grades, so pairing students to tutors, which align with their needs and personalities, creates obviously engaging and effective sessions. We are award winning. We won an award last year for our GCSE specialists, but we do A-levels as well. We support hundreds of students and partner with schools nationwide to guide learners through GCSEs and A-levels. So hopefully a lot of you potentially who are local have seen us in schools, which we do lots of presentations and workshops as well. So we understand each student's needs both in and beyond the classroom. So starting off with some common issues. So essentially, as we speak to parents day in and day out, we have many issues that arise from the parents speaking about their child. So essentially, instead of giving you a summary of what we're going to go through today, we thought it would be best to give you it within these 5 common issues that we're going to cover. So then being, is my son revising enough? How can I tell if my daughter's revision is effective? What even counts as effective revision? My son is getting stressed and seems tired. How can I help with that? And my daughter does not tell me how she's getting on. That bottom one is so key. We want to hopefully with this session will help you develop a better relationship with what's going on in your child's school life, and therefore be able to be involved in that and support as much as you can.
Perfect. That's great. I think a massive thing for parents is just reframing the questions that you are asking. A lot of the questions, especially when I was in year 10 and 11, were focused around grades. Are you getting that grade? Why didn't you get that grade? Why didn't you hit your predicted in your mocks? I think that these kind of questions are unproductive because they create stress. So one of these questions would be, have you done some revision? It's a classic question to ask your son or daughter, but it's not specific enough. So switching it to, how's your plan going? Is there any way that we can support you with that plan? And any way that you can, is there any adjustments that you'd like to make? We're going to be building a revision timetable, hopefully later on. And we've sent over a revision timetable. It's all about adjusting that based on the mocks that are about to come up to see what your weak points might be. So yeah, it's definitely that switch away from the grades to a more structured approach where you can actually help them get better throughout the journey.
Yes, exactly that. So some research found that when parents show calm, confident, students' stress levels drop up to 25% and performance improves by 8 to 10% on average, which is quite astonishing, really. So as Harry mentioned, moving away from just the content, have you done some revision, what grades are you getting, to actually joining them on that journey and supporting them with it. So just to start off with some helpful tips, the first one is mainly about talking to your child and possibly their teachers. So it might be their form tutor, their head of year, to discuss with them if there are any actual problems going on at the moment. Your son or daughter is probably quite unlikely to tell you them openly. So if you talk to the teacher, it's good to, understand them now, and then you can deal with them that way. Giving them room to focus. So during exam season, avoid being pushy. Don't force upon them any potential extracurricular activities, or even just pushing extra revision on them. Give them room to focus and make sure they're doing the things that we mentioned later on. And even join them, as in randomly ask them revision questions throughout the day. Join them, make it fun if you can. But if you pick up a flashcard every now and then and ask them, and if they know the answer, that's fantastic. If they don't, then we'll explain later what to do with it. But randomly asking them revision questions, if you know them, really does help to take part in the process.
Perfect. Brilliant. I'm going to jump into some content stuff. So by this point, if you are obviously based in the UK, which I know a lot of you are, you're going to be taking one of the 3 major curriculums, or potentially others, but these are the 3 main ones. So you've got AQA, EdXL, and OCR. You'll be surprised by how many times that parents come to us, or the student comes to us not knowing what specification they're doing. So first of all, jotting down for every subject what specification you're doing, but then curriculum, and then getting a specification. So if you don't know how to get specification, you can literally put in GCSE chemistry AQA specification, print that off, and do a RAG rate. So RAG means red, amber, and green. So red meaning I don't understand any of this topic. Amber meaning I understand the topic, but if I got exam questions on this, I might struggle a little bit applying that knowledge. And green is it's going really good. I know that when I was in year 10, 11, I used to be quite good at maths. So maths was always a green for me. But then chemistry, let's say, was a red. I knew that pretty much the whole of the content in chemistry was going to be a red. So why I suggest this is that naturally you end up doing topics that you enjoy or you're very good at. So rewiring your brain and holding yourself accountable and seeing that in chemistry, I've got a lot of red. So let's prioritize that on the revision timetable is super important at this point. It's the first step to make, in my opinion.
Yeah, completely agree. Perfect. So lots of you are probably thinking, how do you actually revise? So this is one of the most important things that we actually go through, and revision actually relates to Edgar Dale's kind of experience on the right there. What this all means is we emphasize to students to aim to switch from passive recall to active recall when revising. Passive recall is what you may find them doing at the moment, which is reading textbook, highlighting notes, and summarizing, which in all honesty is a good thing to do. It does reach that 10 to 30% on Edgar Dale's kind of experience, which is how much you remember. It comes down to reading, hearing, and viewing images of things, and you will end up remembering it. However, you'd want to reach that 50, 70, and 90%, and that comes down to active recall. And the active recall methods are exam papers, flashcards, teaching others, and mind maps. They really, really do help. Data from the Cambridge assessment shows that students who revise in short, frequent bursts, so 30 to 50 minutes, retain up to 30% more information than those who revise for long, uninterrupted stretches, like 4 to 5 hours, say. So, to be honest, for parents, we can encourage your child to take breaks actively, 5 to 10 minutes breaks. We'll come on to a method right after this. But most importantly with this slide, we want to emphasize that a combination of these two methods, but emphasis on the active recall, is really important. You can then at least 7 to 10x the amount you're going to remember by doing the active recall, because you're testing your knowledge. Exam papers, so breaking down exam papers is obviously going over past exams and having a go to time if you can. Flashcards is, we'll come on to flashcards, but flashcards are like in the image in the top right, where you write out a question on the front, a fact it may be, and the answer on the back. Teaching others, self-explanatory, should be done anyway. So if your son or daughter goes up and does 40 minutes of revision, 20 minutes of revision, whatever it may be, and can come down and teach you the subject and you understand it, they then understand it themselves. And Mind Maps is writing everything down they know about a particular topic on a map, which really helps to get out the knowledge that they know. So, as I just mentioned, the Pomodoro revision method, I don't know if anyone has heard of this, but essentially it's quite a simple basis, really. So essentially you're picking a topic, so a single task or subject you want to revise. You're then setting a 25-minute timer, which is obviously called a Pomodoro. So during this time, you work with full concentration, no phone, no distractions, no tabs. When the timer rings, take a 5-minute break and then stand up, stretch, do something else. Don't not go on your phone. We'll mention that later on, but try not to go on your phone. And then they repeat the cycle. So 4 Pomodoros, 4 times, obviously. So then you get 2 hours of revision in and then take a longer break for 15 to 30 minutes. Obviously, as you can see on the right there, creating urgency, preventing burnout, and improving memory, which are all fantastic things when it comes to revision.
Definitely. Very good. So another method that I got suggested by a tutor was the Lightner method. So the Lightner method is going back to that RAG where I mentioned the red, amber, and green. It's picking topics that you struggle with, especially for these qualitative subjects like English literature. We have to learn a lot of facts or learn a lot of quotes in the book. I think that this is a great method. So what you do is you make 3 boxes. And the hardest ones you go through 3 times a week. The medium ones, so that would be maybe your amber column, would you go through twice a week, and your easy you go through once a week. It's prioritizing and making yourself accountable for going through the stuff that's hard rather than just going through the topics that you like. Another one to mention here is obviously the Anki app with Anki flashcards, and they're great. You can download a flashcard pack from the internet. There's lots of people that do provide that, but the best thing is to create the flashcard yourself, and Anki will, if you get the question right, put the question to maybe a week's time. But if you get the question wrong, then they'll put the question maybe in 2 or 3 questions time. So what you end up building is you end up building an online version of this hard, medium, and easy. But I do like building it in person too. It seems like a fun task to also build the Lightner method in person. So yeah, it's a great method.
Absolutely. So when we're building all this together, accountability really does matter. And making a to-do list, I'm sure you've heard this many, many times, and many parents obviously should help their child to do this. So please, after this call tomorrow, whenever it may be this weekend, please do build a revision timetable. This allows you to obviously stay focused and allows the discipline to kick in, which matters more than ticking every box. So even 20 minutes a day, we all know adds up to far more than just cramming 8 hours before the exam. Studies have found that spacing revision over several days improves long-term retention by 60% compared to cramming, which is amazing. So when it comes to parents, please help your student do this. And when it comes to revision timetables, it's not just about writing biology, chemistry, and maths after school. It's about writing biology, flashcards, and a particular topic, then chemistry, an exam paper on a particular topic, keeping it specific as possible, and then holding yourself accountable to that. And then you can quite quickly go through the topics that you've done and come back to them if you're struggling on that. So on the note of breaks within the revision timetable, we're going to take a quick break for any questions that we do have. So if you've got any questions, please do put them in the chat. We'll give it a minute or so. And if you don't, then we will by all means carry on. So as I say, please do put any questions you've got in the chat at all. Save them to the end. We'll come to questions in the end, of course, as well. But if you've got any questions now about anything we've just been over, please do feel free to ask. Good to see a fair few people on today. I don't know if people are typing away, but if you are, we'll continue for those who don't. But that's absolutely fine. Let's continue. But yeah, please, if you have any questions, please do ask them at the end.
Perfect. I got a question from Joseph. What is Anki? So Anki is, you can look up Anki app on the App Store. So it's an app where you can download flashcards. And as I mentioned, it's this idea that if you get the question wrong, then they'll take that question and maybe give it to you in a few days or in a few weeks. But it prioritizes the questions you get wrong. So it's an algorithm that means that you try the hard questions and the questions that you struggle with. Hopefully that answers your question.
Had another one here from Amanda saying, my child is not interested in revising at all. How can I encourage this without an argument? To be honest, Amanda, we'll come on to that at the end. Is that all right? So we hopefully going to go through a few more points, a bit about motivation in a bit, but we'll definitely answer your point at the end because we've probably got some fantastic answers for that. So yeah, Amanda, hold with us and we will be with you in about 10, 15 minutes. So perfect. Let's go.
Oh, brilliant. Sorry. We'll go back.
So,
okay, brilliant, perfect. So going through the mark scheme. So we know that we go through these past papers, and for every single one, there will be a mark scheme. And the mark scheme is what the head examiner says is important about the paper, what went well and what went wrong. Another thing to mention here is examiner's report. So if you read the examiner's report, it will actually tell you where students in the past years have struggled. So it's a blueprint for you to understand where to maybe channel your energy. But I think that one of our tutors summarized this just so well. Examiners reward the same words, keywords again and again, especially for A-levels. If you are going to do them, this is super important point. Learn their language and you'll earn their marks. I think that just summarizes it really nicely. Like when I read the mark schemes for economics, I often find the same language being used. And you can imagine that when you write the longer questions for perhaps for English literature, you're going to be ticking the mark scheme off and using the same language that's down. It's a no-brainer for the examiner. They've got no questions and they're going to give you the mark straight away. So it's being very strategic there. I think that the issue is that a lot of people do the exam pass papers but don't look at the mark scheme and don't really thoroughly understand if it's something that they've done not very well on this question, why would that be, and the language that they can pick away from it. So I think that's a really important point. And especially with the examiner's report too, not many students at all look at the examiner's report. And I think that if you are looking to get a really good grade, have a look at that. It's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. We see a lot more questions coming in the chat, by the way, so we'll definitely get back to them at the end. But hopefully we'll answer them a few now.
Perfect. Brilliant. I'm going to go over... Is that... Perfect. That's the next one. So I'm going to go over burnout because I do know that a lot of students... you may worry that they're not revising enough, but that with the academic pressure at the moment, there's a lot of students who are revising too much potentially and are going to experience burnout in the early years, in the early months or potentially in March. I'm just going to go through some early signs that you can kind of spot out as a parent. So some of these, especially for half terms, recognizing these early and having a conversation with your son or daughter to understand if this is something that they're going through and how to solve it too. So desperately wanting to have a nap throughout the day, especially at inconvenient times. If it's halfway through the day and they're looking to have a nap because they're physically exhausted, have a conversation with them to see why they're physically exhausted. Is it because they've been staying up really late revising and they haven't had enough sleep? Remember, sleep is so important, something we'll come on to. Losing track of time, not remembering revision periods. When I was in year 10 and 11, I would revise for maybe 5 hours. If you ask me what I did in that 5 hours, I just said I did 5 hours of revision. I didn't really remember the topics that I went through. A lack of desire to get out of bed. I guess this is quite an extreme example, but there is a lot of students that dread revision so much because they've been doing so much of it. And it's got so many negative connotations attached to it that their desire to get out of bed and start revising is just lacking. And then the other one, which I think definitely I can see myself in and my year 10 and 11 self in, is the focus on completion rather than quality. I remember I used to just do 1 hour, maybe 5 to 6 p.m. of GCSE chemistry revision and not really know what I'm doing. Go back into Joe's point about the revision timetable, not really building a structure, spending 15 minutes of the time just deciding what I'm actually going to revise. I'd get to the end of the hour and I'd say, well, I've done an hour. That's good enough. but it's not good enough. You need to remember specific topics and also the method you're going to use. So naturally go into solutions for that, because that's probably what you want at this point. Hobbies, definitely a massive point. And so exercise increases neuroplasticity. And what that means is that you are able to consolidate information much better, and also building that structured plan. Going back to a revision timetable is great for students who are not revising enough to hold them accountable, but it's also good for students who are potentially overdoing it and could cause burnout, to build a revision timetable to say, I'm going to finish at 9 o'clock today, because what I used to do is revise till that time and then just carry on a little bit, and then it would eat into the time what I was meant to be sleeping. So I think that switching it and building like a structured plan is really important.
It is indeed. It is indeed. So, on the note of that structured plan and sleeping, it's emphasizing sleep and exam success. So, believe it or not, sleeping can actually help with your revision. So, staying up late at night, being on your phone is definitely not going to do any student any favors. So, to be honest, the Harvard Medical School found that students who sleep 7 to 9 hours consolidate memory up to 40% more effectively than those who sleep less than 6, which is astonishing. So, essentially, when you finish your revision and you get ready and then you go to bed, you're actually consolidating the knowledge that you've just revised, which is fantastic. So parents, how can you help with this? Obviously, I know it's tough, but if you can ensure that your child is getting in between 7 to 9 hours sleep, this includes weekends as well as hopefully they're revising on the weekend, as well as half-term and revision periods, then that's absolutely fantastic. And then emphasising the no revision after 9:30. As Harry said, it's really easy to get carried away, especially coming from school, extracurricular activity, you having dinner at 7, 8 o'clock, you think I haven't done your revision. If you go past 9:30, 10 o'clock, it eats into the hours you're sleeping, and it's also your focus is not going to be there. I'm sure lots of you will have questions at the end around that, but we can answer them then. And last one is about oversleeping. Oversleeping as well. Don't think that you can have 10 to 11 hours of sleep and it'll be fine. Sleeping, obviously lower alertness, and sleeping far longer than the body needs can make students feel groggy, which is called sleep inertia. So obviously making it hard to concentrate when you actually do come to revise. So 7 to 9 hours is perfect, and we'll speak more about this at the end with questions. And then about mindset and motivation. So I know a lot of you in the chat have asked about this. Hopefully this sort of answers your question. But students who view ability as developable are 47% more likely to improve their grades, which is quite an outstanding fact, to be honest. Many students obviously feel, especially over a mock period when they get their grades back, that they're not improving or they're not good enough. And that's where it can really impact revision, because they might be thinking revision isn't working, or why should I do revision if I can't do it? And that's where we've got to change our mindset to a growth mindset, which me and Harry have both developed, especially during the A-level period, but we wish we'd done it for GCSEs. And how parents can help with this is about being specific when praising effort. And it can be as simple as that and the strategy. So instead of things like "you're so clever," it can be things like "I'm proud of how you organised your notes," or "these flashcards look fantastic, should we go through them?" Things like that can, spark the serotonin, the endorphins within your child, and hopefully motivate them to potentially pick up something like flashcards or something else at the Anki app and start revising. Students usually say when a topic feels hard, they assume that they're bad at it. And then those with a growth mindset that switch to the growth mindset interpret difficulty as a signal that they're stretching and learning and developing themselves. So we will answer specific questions at the end, but when it comes to mindset and motivation, it's about joining them on the process, not just leaving them in their room and saying, my son can't be bothered to revise. He goes up and just spends all day, all evening in his room to revising, but he can't be bothered. It's probably a reason for that. If you were to do it with him or try and influence that, then definitely it's bound to help.
Perfect. I think that a topic that's probably comes up all the time with parents is digital discipline. So it's about reducing phone usage throughout the exam period. So one study here found that improved exam performance by 6.4%, but I really want to highlight the one around the average notification breaks focus for 23 minutes, which I just think is an outstanding number. Imagine that you have 3 notifications throughout your 3-hour revision period, then that's 1 hour loss just because you've just been brought out of that deep focus state. So how do we actually solve this? We create a tech off zone. We put your phone in another room. Remember, if the phone is in the room then that can also distract you because the notifications can go off. A thing that has been mentioned to me, because I also use social media often and I wanted to reduce my social media use, was turning your phone into black and white. So you can actually do that. Imagine, you can probably realize on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, the lights are so in your face and they create dopamine, and that's what keeps you there for an hour or 2 hours when you're only meant to go on for 5 minutes. So putting it onto black and white makes it less visually appealing. But also there's lots of apps. Apple makes its own one, which will limit your phone usage to 30 minutes a day. I generally have it on for social media use. That's also including the business. I would recommend one of those three. So Tech Off Zone, a black and white phone is also something different that's not mentioned very often, but also getting an app that can lock social media is definitely a good point.
Yeah, and just to emphasize what Harry just said there, even when your phone is next to you face down, you're actually reducing your working memory because your brain is still allocating some energy not looking at it and not picking it up. So having it in another room, having behind you so you can't actually see it in your full focus is exactly what we want to see for students. And a bit about why it matters, obviously, notifications trigger dopamine responses that break focus, and multitasking during study lowers information retention. Also, lastly, constant micro interruptions train the brain for short attention spans, which is the exact opposite of what we'd be looking for in the exam when you've got to sit an exam for over an hour, hour and a half long. You don't want to be thinking that your brain has got a short attention span because you want to obviously achieve the best you can in that exam. So coming to the end, mock examiners feedback loops. Obviously, this webinar, is hopefully around the mock period. We've heard some people have got them next week, doing them now or a couple of weeks' time. But we want to be seeing them as feedback loops. And what this means is analysing the paper. Students who analyse their mock papers and set 1 to 2 targeted goals improve their final grades by 0.6 to 0.8 of a grade on average, which is fantastic and take you basically nearly a grade boundary, which is wonderful. For students themselves, it should be looking, say you got 60% in your most recent mock. You can't be looking at that as a failure, or you may look at that as a success, which is brilliant. But essentially, you should look at that as I've done 60% right and 40% wrong. Analysing what went right is fantastic. You can use the methods that we mentioned a little bit ago about Harry mentioned about the Anki app and using flashcards for the bits you know. So maybe set them aside and you don't need to worry about them for now. When it comes to the harder bits that you've missed, they have to be analysed. That 40% that you didn't get correct has to be going over. You have to put that into your revision timetable and make sure you're going over that consistently, because that's where, when the exam comes over, that's where you exactly want to increase your grade. After mocks, for parents, ask, instead of the usual, what grade did you get? Ask what's one thing that you worked on and one thing you'll change for the next. I think your student would really appreciate. I think your child would really appreciate. Not just thinking about, oh, what grade did you get? What grade did you get for the exam? It's not like that. It should be more about learning from exactly what it may be. The whole point of a mock is it's not the real thing, and therefore we're reframing the failure as data. If obviously failure is the case, if it's not, then that's fantastic. And but there is always time for improvement as well.
Perfect. Amazing. So I know that a lot of you are in year 11, and potentially some of you might be going to college apprenticeships, but some of you might be doing A-levels. So I wanted to give a quick note of advice for A-levels. So A-levels definitely are slightly more independent learning. I know that a lot of the students struggle as they transition to A-levels because of their extracurriculars. So get used to reading outside the classroom. I can only talk about economics here, but the economics has got the Financial Times, the Independent, the Economist, many of these names that you can have a read of, understand what's going on in the real world at the moment. And it's also good because you can start applying that knowledge. So for interest rates, you might be able to start applying it to what the Bank of England's doing and understanding why they're doing it. So it, one, consolidates your memory, but also differentiates yourself and really differentiates like the A star to the A students when I'm reading these essays is definitely a massive point. But for GCSEs, maybe less so, but I do think it's good to start building these skills up, and there's nothing you can lose by reading. It's interesting stuff out there, and all the stuff that you're learning at GCSE can be applied to the real world.
Absolutely.
So as we are a tutoring company, I just wanted to end with a topic about the effectiveness of tutoring. If you work with us, if you work with a different company, I just want to make sure that it's as effective as for you as possible, because I know that tutoring, one-to-one tutoring, can be, to be completely transparent, quite expensive. So it's about making it as effective as possible. So it works best when you work at the school's pace. And what I mean by that is that the teacher will have a kind of a progress chart of where they're going through the curriculum. Hopefully they've built this already. And you can go to your parents' evenings and ask them, do you have a progress chart ready? And if you do have that ready, can you send it to me so the tutor can then be aligned? Because there's nothing worse than being a tutor and being told to go through a topic, but you go through it with a student and then they haven't actually covered it yet. What we generally want to be doing as a tutor is working 1 or 2 weeks behind the teacher, and reinforcing their learning. So if you are going to start getting tutoring, I'm sure a lot of you might already have it, get a teacher's plan together so the tutor can work at the same pace as the teacher and really reinforce that learning. Remember, in the classroom, they might be scared to put their hand up, ask them questions, and they've got lots of troubles built up over time. So I think that it's really important that if you are going to get tutoring, just 1 or 2 weeks behind is the perfect amount. So this is just an example of an economics plan I got sent last week. I think it's a perfect example. You've got micro, you've got macro. It's all done by the themes. It's Edexcel A, so there's 4 themes for economics, and you've got it all broken down by the times that they're going to go through it. So what I've done is I've worked 1 or 2 weeks behind that, and it's worked really well. So I strongly suggest that if you do go to parents' evening, try to get a teacher's plan if you are going to think about getting tutoring.
Absolutely. So to summarize, we wanted to answer a few of the common issues that we went through right at the start. So, and it looks like that quite a few of you have put this in the chat as questions. So, is my summarizing enough? There is no maximum amount of revision you should do. If you fill up that revision timetable, do it effectively. So breaking it down, the subject you're going to do, the time, obviously, and then the topic and how you're going to do it, you should be able to hopefully get through a lot of the content, especially if you stick with the things that are hardest. I found business quite easy when I was in GCSE, and I was doing quite well in the exams, so I didn't revise it nowhere near as much. It might have been 1 to 2 hours a week. Then it came to things like English. I found English quite difficult. Therefore, alongside tutoring, I would probably do 4 to 5 hours per week. So you start to get to the gist, and then it comes to half term, Christmas. Don't think that's a week off. I'd really emphasize revising then as well. How can I tell if my daughter's revision is effective? So when it comes to effective revision, as I say, the active recall could not be of more importance, to be honest. Combining the passive and active, so exam papers, flashcards, mind maps, and teaching others are the ways that you can remember information a hell of a lot more than just reading notes, summarizing notes, and doing it that way. So that's what obviously studies have shown that as well. What even counts as effective revision? Pretty much the same question as above. Doing all the methods that we've mentioned before. You can honestly send us an email if you'd like specific revision per subject as well, because different revision methods are better for different subjects. My son is getting stressed and seems tired. How can I help? We've been through some of those solutions for burnout, but that's about actually understanding whether they have burnout at the start. So they might not. They might just act like they are because they don't want to do revision, or the likelihood is they probably are quite stressed and seem tired, which is the case, which I believe some of you asked in the chat, so we'll answer that in a minute. And then my daughter does not tell me how she's getting on. This is so important. We do not want we hear so many parents say, oh, I don't know. Honestly, my daughter doesn't tell me anything. Don't let them come in from school and just not tell you anything. It may be because you're focusing so much on what they're achieving in their grades, and you can just be, what are you achieving? What's your predicted grades? We've dealt with that, and it's not the way to go about it. It needs to be, how are you getting on at school? How's everything around the school life? How is this particular subject? Would you like any help with it? Be more supportive, as opposed to just firing away, how are their grades, because that's not exactly what students want to hear at the moment, especially through mocks.
Yeah, perfect. I will just add one thing, that if you are in a situation where your son or daughter doesn't want to talk to him about their grades, parents' evenings are really important. So just building a plan together of the questions that you want to ask. You maybe write it down on a notepad so you get there and ask the teacher that question. I think that's really important. Building like a stronger relationship with the teachers is a great way to make up for that, because I know sometimes the son or daughter may be slightly nervous and anxious about school, or it's not a subject that they're very passionate about. So yeah, it's really hard to create that relationship, and don't strain it too much by asking too many questions, because it may kind of affect your personal relationship with them too. So yeah, ask your teacher them questions, and yeah, I'm sure they'll be able to provide some advice.
Yeah, please do make the most out of parents' evenings, because lots of teachers are fantastic and will really, really do things to support you. So perfect. So lastly, before we go on to questions, thank you so much for joining us today. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you to our amazing tutors on our platform, which I would fully advise and emphasize going to have a look at if you need any help, or you can contact us using these two QR codes, with the left one being our website and the right one being the consultation call. And you've got email and our mobile number there if you need us at all. But moving on to your questions, so we will take them as they come. Please do fire in some more. So I believe Harry already answered what is the Anki app. So Amanda, my child is not interested in revising at all. How can I encourage this without an argument? Very, very good question. I feel like we have answered it fairly well, but to be honest with you, it depends on the relationship between you and your child. If they're not interested at all, it may be because of the revision they're doing at the moment. We really, really do say that to try and make revision as fun as possible, and it really is hard. But there are apps out there, there are YouTube videos. It's finding what works for your child. You will hit a sweet spot at some point if you try lots of different methods of what actually works for them. I remember when I was going through it, I would watch quite a few YouTube videos while making notes. And I know that seems like passive recall, but it can work, and making colourful and different notes and writing out things like that. So there are many, many ways that can work. And it is really hard, especially when, we can say for ourselves that sometimes when you find things really hard as a student, that realistically you don't want to get home revised. You've had 5 hours at school, right? And you don't want to come home and start revising, but it does need to be done. So how to encourage this, to answer your question, I don't know if you've got anything to add, but
I would just literally kind of touch upon what Joe mentioned. There's so many different revision methods you can do. It's not as kind of binary as just like getting a textbook out. Nowadays there's so many resources out there, videos. I know for maths there's lots of resources out there, YouTube videos, and they do make it really fun and engaging. So yeah, definitely having a look at different revision methods and maybe exploring that idea with her is a good starting point, and asking her the questions on why she finds it challenging at the moment in a non-confrontational way, and just really understanding her struggles.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. And I'll be honest with you. So when I was revising when I was younger, I remember being really, really key to have a bit of praise. So for example, if they come downstairs and you say, oh, would you mind teaching me a bit about what you've just done revision on? And they can teach you it. Not only does that fill them with endorphins, the fact that they can teach you the subject, they build confidence in themselves, but also for your side, giving them a bit of praise and saying, that's fantastic. No, I do understand that now. Repeating it back to them shows more than you may think. So, just being really, really supportive, and please don't go on about their grades, because I know it's important, but overall you've got to join them on the journey instead. Jason, how long do you reckon you should revise for? Hopefully we have answered this one. It honestly is down to your child. You can revise for however long you like. We understand some students are really, really intelligent and annoyingly don't need to revise very much, and some do a lot. It's whatever you think's, the fine line between burnout and not burnout. So please don't get burnt out. We do emphasize breaks and extracurricular activities, but filling up that revision timetable is really, really key.
Yeah, perfect. I would say at the moment, potentially 1 to 2 hours a day would be a good start, especially given that it's not mock period. 1 or 2 hours is great start. So 90 minutes is probably the sweet spot. And then when you get to January, like slightly building that up, and then obviously building a revision timetable in the new year would be great. If you do build that, then please just send it over to us, and we're more than happy to kind of evaluate and have a call about your strategy going into the new year.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully you've all received the revision timetable that we sent over. But if you haven't, please do get in contact with us. Jay, I'm lucky my son has a good sleep routine. You are very, very lucky. I completely agree. Next question. Do you endorse the use of ChatGPT for revision or as a tool for study? That's a fantastic question. That really is. And that gets brought up a lot. Go for it, Harry.
Yeah, perfect. I can go for it. I use ChatGPT quite very, very often. So I think that it's great at creating other questions. obviously, it goes without saying to not use it for essay writing. But it's really good to create sample questions, especially for maths. It can take that question and create new, kind of just take a few of the numbers and rechange it, so you can work on that thought process for stuff like, I don't know, expanding brackets or double brackets. It's really good because it will just change that 1 to a 2, and then you can work for it again, and then you can check against theirs. But I would just verify the results. For other subjects, I don't think, for stuff like English literature, I don't think it's very good. I don't think that the way that they write is that good, to be honest. So I think it's better the math side of stuff than the English side. But it's good at recalling facts too. That's great. So if you do need it to recall any facts, it will just scrape the internet and get that information for you, so it'll be accurate.
However, we do completely appreciate that the ChatGPT can get things wrong. It does get things wrong quite a lot. Obviously, it does seem like a really powerful tool, and you can trust it on the most part. But if, for example, you were to ask it to give you all of the types of questions that can come up in an exam for, say, geography at GCSE, it can give you a list, but you have to be specific and say OCR, EdXL, AQA. The more specific you are with ChatGPT, the more accurate it's going to be. If you just whack in something and hope that it's going to give you the right answer and trust it, it may not be. So, and please, I really emphasize, please do backtrack on what ChatGPT says. So ask it sometimes, are you sure this is correct? And it will actually backtrack and show you that sometimes it will have to rethink again. So yeah, as much as what Harry said, it is a great tool. Please don't trust it all times and do not rely on it. The textbooks are where the information is. Your teachers are where the information is, not ChatGPT. ChatGPT should just be an additional resource. Yeah, and then how would you get your child to balance their sport and gym with their revision? Again, it comes down to the revision timetable. It's so important to have sport and gym in there. It really is. It cannot be a case of, oh, mocks are here, you can't go and play football, you can't play netball, you can't go to the gym. They should still be able to do these things. It quite literally moves them away and consolidates the things they've been learning about away from it. It's way better than them scrolling on TikTok in their room. So keeping them around and you know, at least what we would say 1 to 2 hours a week, probably minimum really, and hopefully you're not traveling too far to do so. But balancing that, you know, you can do some potential revision in the car, so that's some flashcards, safe obviously, and things like that. They can be done. I remember when you used to go on long drives to, say, football or something, you do revision as well, in any way you can. So but yeah, when it comes to as you say, when it comes to balancing them, it is tough, but it's important to keep them in there. Really would emphasize that.
Yeah, definitely. Perfect. Great.
My son is struggling the most at maths, so is it right we try and focus on that a little bit more than other subjects? He's in higher group, which is why I think. Yes, absolutely. We could not agree more with that going for the things they struggle more on is more important. You know, at A level, I didn't struggle with business that much and end up getting A star, and I didn't put that much effort in. I'll be really honest with you, it sort of came more naturally. And economics, I struggled with majorly, had a tutor, and I tried really hard at it and did every revision technique possible and ended up going from a D to an A. So it just goes to show that the improvement can definitely be there. But yeah, don't think, oh, I'm doing really bad in business, but I'm doing well in maths. I'll just concentrate on maths because it's easiest. That should be literally the other way around. And it will demotivate you doing something that's harder, because quite literally it is harder, and it's hard to get motivated by something that's difficult. But it needs to be done because that's where the improvements will be. So if you can end up doing that, and when you build your revision timetable, that's where color coding, like Harry said with the RAG rate, color coding red and orange. A lot of your revision timetable should be red and orange, and green should be in slight slots where, you know, you can come home from school, you're really tired, but you can still do some revision. Maybe it's something a little bit that's easier, that comes easy to you.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great.
Is there any other questions at all? Thank you for all the questions. We really appreciate it. There's still quite a few of you watching. So that is the end. We really thank you for joining us. What's the time? So
the time is 47.
47. So yeah, we've gone a couple of minutes over. But yeah, again, we really appreciate it. You've got our details here. Please take a screenshot of this screen. Go to our website. Check us out. If you need any free or other advice, please just give us a call. We'd love to help everyone out that we can, and help you on your journey. But again, thank you very much for joining us, and sorry about the technical issues at the start. But a replay will be Good advice. Thank you. Perfect. That's great, Jay. But yeah, we will also send a replay out to all the people that signed up. If you missed it or had some technical issues like we did, we will definitely send you the replay of this video as well and any other resources we've got. Thank you very much, everyone, and have